Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of Prime Life. Joseph, how are you?
I am great, Paul. How's it going today?
Good. Ready for I think a beautiful weekend in the New York area. It's, I think it feels like we've sort of turned from summer to not quite fall yet, but hopefully get out of doors.
Yes, and I was going to ask you how your day was because it ties very nicely into today's topic. So, tell me a little bit about what you did this morning.
Yeah, no, we just spent time down at NASDAQ in Times Square. We were fortunate enough to be guests of the NASDAQ team, and in particular people who are working with annuity and insurance companies to build indices for to help people grow their nest egg in retirement with confidence and with some protection the insurance companies offer. So it was a good day. And Laura, it was interesting. A lot of crossover between other work we've been doing on the innovation front today. And in fact, our guest is somebody who's actually been on some of our innovation programming before. So Mary, I'm going to kick it over to you to do the introduction.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Tyler End, co-founder and CEO at Retirable. You found Retirable to empower the next generation of retirees and help millions of people in need of retirement planning that may be overlooked by traditional financial planners. Tell us why you started Retirable.
Yeah, first, thank you all so much for having me on today. Excited to tell you a little bit more about what we're building at Retirable and who we're helping. It was kind of a unique story about why I started Retirable. Everybody says that you build businesses based on what you know. So you don't usually see too many 30-year-olds building a business for retirees. But when I started in financial services, I actually worked for a practice that focused on decumulation planning. So that's you guys know this stuff, but that's the phase of life where you're spending down some of that money that you save. So got my first exposure there as a young 23-year-old CFP. After that, I joined a New York City fintech, but always wanted to get back to a place that was near and dear to my heart and start to build a first of its kind platform to give people retirement income confidence.
Awesome. I will definitely include a link to your website and resources. So I'm going to start off with a quick question. Since the world of finance is up and down these days, what do you consider to be the biggest challenges facing people who are retiring in this market?
Yeah, it's a great question. Not necessarily the easiest time to leave the workforce and lose some of that income certainty that you have through your paycheck. But, rising inflation is pretty scary, especially for people who may be on fixed income for some of their income that's coming in. You think of people with pensions that aren't indexed for inflation, unlike Social Security. That can be a really challenging environment. And at the same time, we have a nice stock market correction. So those assets that they have saved up
I think we differ in the definition of nice, but okay.
Yeah, so it is a challenging time. It's one of the reasons that we started a business like ours where we can get people into the appropriate portfolios to kind of insulate them from the risks that you see right now. And we think about this retirement transition. It's a pretty vulnerable life stage. You're taking a big leap, but if you plan ahead of time, it doesn't have to be that scary. Retirement's going to be 20, 30 years for most people. We're probably going to see some more nice corrections along the way. So it's all about the right planning and getting into the right portfolios to kind of insulate yourself from that.
And Tyler, how have the portfolios changed? over the last couple of years? I mean, the environment's just so different. You know, we thought we were going to have low interest rates forever. The market was on a bull run. You know, things have changed. How has the advice, or how's your approach changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, it really hasn't. So one of the things that we do here is, you know, we kind of tie different pools of money based on when you're going to spend them, right? So you're tying them on a risk that you're taking to when you need the money. So somebody that was retiring in this year, you know, they didn't really have to worry about their long-term risky investments dropping, because that's money they're not going to touch for a while. So we believe in diversification, both around the types of investments that you have and the risk that you're taking while in retirement.
Was it ever too soon to plan? And say, what does a 30-year-old have to think about versus a 60-year-old? And is there such a thing as too late to plan for retirement?
Well, you know, as a certified financial planner, it's a pretty easy question to say. It's never too early. But, you know, at different life stages, you're going to have different goals and objectives. You know, as a 30-year-old, you've got a lot of big life changes ahead of you: career, family, etc. So, you know, socking as much money away as possible for retirement. I'm always going to encourage that, but there are some other goals that you might want to prioritize before that when you're younger. But never too early to start learning and understanding what income looks like after you leave the workforce. You know, and as you kind of hit those peak earning years, people talk about it, maybe the kids are out of the house, you have some more disposable income. Those are what we call the catch-up years, but it's a great time to be early in some of that proactive planning around where are you putting your money, what types of accounts, and how much you should be saving, so that, you know, when the time comes, you don't have to worry about a stock market correction forcing you to work a few more years.
Tyler, what do you see as among the biggest mistakes that individuals may make when they're thinking about their retirement planning?
Yeah, there are a few. I think one of the ones that doesn't get talked about enough is on the non-financial side. You know, when you're working, you're spending a lot of time with your coworkers, you're getting a lot of social interaction, stimulation from work that you're doing. And, you know, when you leave the workforce, you might move to a new area. You might not have that embedded network of friends who are also not working. You know, if you only hang out with people from work and they're all younger than you, then you're going to have to find some new ways to fill your time. So I think a big mistake that people make is that they wait too long to start thinking about that stuff. How are you going to spend your time? Who are you going to be spending it with? Where are you going to be living? What hobbies are you going to pick up? You know, everybody's got some dream trips their first year, I feel like. But beyond that, you know, you've got a lot more hours in your day, and it's perfectly okay to take a breath after you know, a long period of work. But you want to make sure that you're still finding that fulfillment every day when you're not working. And then, you know, on the financial side, a lot of people have a bias to become more conservative with their investments. So, you know, this could be 20, 30-year horizon, and you still need to be in appropriate investments so that they're growing for the long term while providing you income at the same time. So, yeah, that's a pretty common one that we see is people get a little bit too risk averse early on.
Yeah. I almost describe this as finding purpose, right? Purpose after work, or purpose despite work. Sometimes, Tyler, do you think purpose should drive your retirement plan, or does your retirement plan effectively enable you to find a new purpose? I'm not sure there's certainly not a right answer here. But I'm just wondering what type of advice you typically give clients.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think people really know, right? We're going to build a plan. That plan is going to change 1 month into retirement, 3 years into retirement, and beyond. There's a lot of life to be lived. And, you know, we talk to so many people who say, I don't want to work another day in my life. I've had enough. But when they get in retirement, they find hobbies or crafts that ultimately end up providing some income to them, whether they planned on that or not. So I don't think there's a right answer, and everyone's different. But one of the things that we stress to people is, we're going to build you this plan. It's our best estimate on what things look like, but the only thing we can guarantee is your life's not going to follow this for 30 years.
A minute ago, you spoke about goals. We were just talking a little bit about lifestyle. So how important are these lifestyle goals as you approach retirement? How do you plan for that? How do you start thinking about that?
Yeah, I think the biggest one, and it kind of gets lumped in with financial goals, but is really important in retirement is where you're going to live, right? You might end up being less active in retirement, and living further away from friends and family doesn't become as enticing. So one of the big things we think about is, are you thinking correctly about where you should be living, and subsequently who you're spending your time with? But that also becomes a financial equation, right? Are you downsizing a home? Do you want to buy a house in retirement? Is something that more people were able to do when interest rates were a little bit lower a year ago. But I think it's important to set out a series of goals along the way. You're going to have a lot of pent up demand that first year of retirement, and you can set those goals. But your physical ability, how much activity you want to be doing might change over time, and it's good to have a series of goals laid out for the long term.
It does a software platform, modern, retirement platform, open the doors for planning for people who may never have had a plan before, had an advisor?
Yeah. Well, two things, and thanks for reminding me to put a plug in here for Retirable. So what this platform that we're building can do is increase that accessibility to having both a plan and a planner. If a retirable financial advisor doesn't need to spend as much time building out complex portfolios and complex plans, because we've made that very easy. They can help a lot more people and do what advisors do best, and connect to help people understand what their goals are and how they can effectively implement these plans. So, one of our goals here is to make sure that everybody gets that dedicated advisor that understands what they're going through in their life. And it's not just about building a cool dollars and cents platform. It's the plan and the planner.
So where do, some less traditional things come into play here? Say I go on and, the planner I'm speaking with, and I say, I want to play in the crypto market or NFTs or other assets that, people are a little squirrely about. What does the conversation do at that point? Does it take a turn to the left? Does it say, talk us through that piece of it?
Yeah, I think, you try and let your bias not jump in on a question like that. Thankfully, we've gotten far fewer crypto questions here lately. I think it was a little rife with some predatory marketing for a while, taking advantage of people who didn't have the ability to take those high-risk investments. But to step back and remove my bias, the first thing you do as a planner is make sure you educate somebody on what they're thinking about. And, we certainly understand with some of our clients, they've got some Robinhood accounts that they're buying stocks in, or some coin that I've never heard of. But as a fiduciary, we can't confidently recommend any of those types of products and the subsequent risk that they carry with the core of their retirement income. But we can certainly educate them and help them make the right decision on how much of their assets they spend with their, what we might call a gambling or play account.
Yeah, what is the average age of the of your clients on the platform?
Most of our clients are, in that retirement sweet spot, 62 to 67, as young as 55, and we've got retirees across the board beyond there. But we're willing to help anybody who's looking for some fiduciary objective financial advice. And that crosses all income brackets as well, right? It's an industry that predominantly has focused on high income earners, but because we built this platform so well that can help with the planning and financial decision making, our advisors are able to work with everybody regardless of how much money they have saved up.
Yeah, I just spent a couple of days with some advisors who are focused on the Medicare space, and we haven't talked about healthcare. So average age around 62, 63. Okay, you're getting right up to the point where you got to decide what Medicare route do I go? Oh, and when do I take Social Security? Do I take it now? Do I wait? How does Social Security and healthcare fit into the planning process for you?
Yeah, those are really the chassis that everybody has in their plan, and it's kind of disappointing as an industry the lack of education, accessible education that we provide around Medicare and Social Security. If you think about it, for most Americans, the date that they decide to elect Social Security is the biggest financial decision they're ever going to make in terms of the magnitude of dollars. And, we don't really give them too much support on how to make that decision. But that's the core of most people's retirement income, and Medicare is the core of their health care and retirement. And if you talk to people, their biggest fears are medical costs going to derail my retirement, and am I going to have enough? So those are really two of the biggest things that we help educate people on. It's health and wealth, and you can't have one without the other. Every decision in retirement is a financial decision, especially how much you're spending and what you spend on in terms of healthcare. That's a critical piece.
Yeah, there's a statistic someone shared with me that the largest number of bankruptcies are from seniors.
Really?
Yeah, due to healthcare costs and, the living longer and outliving their savings and whatnot. So, Tyler, I have a quick question for you here. Millions of people, right, retire. Not everyone has a advisor. How do you make access to good advice, something people can get easily? Yeah.
A platform like Retirable, obviously, but there are other avenues. We often say a lot of people are DIY by circumstance, not by choice. They aren't necessarily as targeted as some high net worths are when they get to retirement age. They aren't as targeted by financial services, and that's who's driving a lot of the education for people around these concepts. Our goal is to bridge that accessibility, but there are other avenues. A lot of retirement plans have great services where they can come in, give webinars, education, etc. A lot of people have somebody in their life that they go to for financial questions, and I always kind of guard people against asking about stocks or anything like that. But maybe speak with somebody that you worked with that just went through retirement and understand the pitfalls and the challenges of signing up for Medicare and Social Security. And then, if there's an area that you're not feeling comfortable in, it's a great time to go engage with an expert.
Tyler, what kind of takeaways can you offer our guests? Some, action items that they can, really think about and potentially, take action on pretty right away, I would say, or in the near future.
Yeah, maybe what's happy retirement, right? Not necessarily a rich retirement.
Yep.
Happiness, right,
Good
doesn't
point.
always
Yes.
mean you're living in the huge house on the hill.
Yeah. I think most people understand that, it's a celebration. Even if you are a little bit worried about if you're going to have enough, this is an amazing life transition that you're going through. But yeah, at high level, it's never too early to start planning, and it's never too late. So we work with a lot of people who have already left the workforce, and they're looking for ways to make what they have last. But yeah, start planning early. Make sure you're taking advantage of the right decisions around Social Security and Medicare. If you work with a planner or you feel adept enough to manage your investments on your own, don't just watch the stock market every day. When you've got some more free time, it might be tempting to turn on MSNBC every day, and that's not always a positive thing. But take a moment to celebrate the transition. There's a lot of life ahead of you that you're going to be able to hopefully enjoy, and then work with a planner so you don't have to worry about your money running out.
All right, and let's talk. How about that transition period, right? Because I've heard a lot of people, they realize, oh, I took Social Security too early. Let me unfile. Let me go back to my job. Oh, that was a bad mistake. How do you manage? How long is that transition process, and what do you do to make it actually a good one?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, a lot of people leave the workforce not by choice, right? And if you haven't done the proper planning, what you do have can be derailed pretty quickly. And I think that's where you see a lot of people actually, going back into the workforce. But, this isn't our parents' retirement. A lot of people don't have the pension replacing 80% of their income on day one. It's not that smooth. So, there's no wrong retirement. There's no reason to compare yourself to other people if you do end up going back to work, because as I've kind of hammered home on this call, you got a lot of hours to fill, and, it doesn't have to be back to the full-time job, but it can be kind of a smooth transition over a few years.
So I'm taking a look on the Retirable site, and I see that you offer a lot, right? So we talked about education and how important it is, and a lot of what's on here is really, offering education on multiple levels. But one thing I see is you have a section on other experts, and them going through retirement with you by your side. Can you talk to us a little bit about additional partners you may have as part of the Retirable process to make this retirement easier and more comfortable for people as they go through it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, health and wealth is the big one. We can educate people on Medicare, but we can't pretend to know every plan in every area of the company or country and what's appropriate for someone. So, we have partners there, and we also have partners who are Medicare agents that bring us on to help people with Social Security, et cetera. So that's the core of it. Estate planners. We've got some partners that do trust and wills across financial services. Our goal is to make everything accessible to somebody and have a trusted network, because that's the biggest thing. It's a vulnerable life transition. You need to be able to work with people that you trust, because the decisions that you make now are going to have ramifications 30 years down the road. And, we're doing some of that vetting on our side to make sure that, you trust your financial advisor from Retirable, and anybody that they bring on to the conversation, you can have trust in them as well.
I love that you brought the word trust up, because in my experience talking to consumers, that is one of the biggest things that I hear. They're worried, they're afraid, and they don't know who to trust all the time. There are some people that have, really deep networks and can get referrals with people they know, love, and trust, but there are others that do not. So I love the fact that you brought that up. Can you just talk a little bit about that in terms of that trust in how you, in how you operate Retirable?
Yeah, love that question. So, we think about the planning process, the discovery of somebody's goals and needs, and then educating them on, how their finances fit into those. People share a lot with their advisor, both emotionally and financially. So when we speak with someone, there's no sales pitch on the first call. It's our financial advisor's job to earn someone's trust by being compassionate person to talk to and delivering value. We're happy to give away information on education and around Social Security on a first call, because that's just going to make someone trust us a little bit more. And we built the compensation structure a little bit differently than most financial services companies. I want everyone who talks to somebody at Retirable to know that it's an objective fiduciary licensed advisor that's going to be helping them along the way. Nobody gets paid on commissions. There's no sales bonuses. It's their job to help as many people as possible, not to make as many sales as possible.
Yeah, you talk about advice, and you mentioned this. The where question is a huge one, right? For all the factors you mentioned, as well as probably the elephant in the room is the tax rate, right? Living in New York, there's a lot of reasons to move out of New York to Florida, right? Retire earlier, pay less, but I left my friends, I left my family, where does that fit? Like, if you kind of, I think is that kind of like the hardest question people need to resolve if you put them in rank order as they're building a plan?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think a lot of people might have grander plans when they're younger on what they're going to do. When it comes down to it, maybe it's a little more attractive to rent a condo in Florida for a month than leave all your friends and family just to save on a tax rate. But we can run every analysis to give them the decision support they need for something like that. It all starts with emotional decisions before financial, especially around housing, and it's important for people to understand that when they're going through those. If you can have all the money in the world in Florida, but if you don't have any friends or grandkids running around with you, you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, well, listen, this has been terrific. I think, I don't know, Laura, okay, what's your biggest takeaway? What's maybe a good last question here for Tyler?
Sure. Yeah, for me, it's really part of my co-host here. So you talk about grandkids, right? Personal story. My mother recently retired, and she loves being able to take care of them, except for today when she's busy. So I think for me, my biggest takeaway is obviously it's never too early. And keeping that mindset is not only about, financial wealth, but also the wealth of health and family and, crying children. But my biggest question, I think, for you would be, what is your why? Why do you wake up and do this and create Retirable and live this life every day?
Yeah. One of the things I loved about working at the financial services company when I started my career is you can see such a tangible impact in somebody's life during this phase, right? This is the concrete, we're making this life transition out of the workforce. And, I still hop on the phones with a lot of the clients here. It gives me energy. If the team knows I'm in a down mood, they'll just put me on the phone with a client and it'll bring me back. My mom was a public school teacher in Milwaukee. She wasn't getting the same calls from the Merrill Lynches of the world when it came time for her to retire. And, she found somebody that she could trust. It wasn't her son at the time, but she found somebody she could trust. And, I saw the impact that made on her life. So, I want everybody to be able to have that.
Yeah, excellent. Well, so Tyler, if people want to know more, go to retirable.com. Is that right?
That's right. Happy to include links for you guys as well. But, even if you're just curious, if you're early, if you already retired, we'd be happy to talk to you and give our thoughts.
Excellent. All right. Listen, thanks so much, Tyler. And thanks for our listeners. Join us again next week for another episode of Prime Life. Thanks.
Thank you.